What's up, everybody? Welcome to Show Me the Meaning, Wisecrack's movie podcast.
Show me the meaning!
Oh, that was loud.
I'm rarely in here in the studio.
No,
I gotta make
appreciate
it count.
I appreciate it. My name is Jared, and I'm joined here by the Show Me the Meaning crew. Today, we got Ryan in studio. What's up, Ryan?
Film fans?
And we got Tommy.
Hey, Jared. How are you doing?
And joining us today, we have a special guest from the Film House podcast. You are the producer of the Film House podcast. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We got Dan with us. What's up, Dan?
What's up, guys? Happy to be here. This is awesome.
Yeah, glad to have you, man. Another Funhouse friend joining the party. So today we're talking about... Yes. Give him the clap. Today we're talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the 2019 movie written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. As always, we're going to go around and get first impressions. What did people think about it? Let's start with Ryan. Ryan, what did you think of this movie?
Well, I'm probably not the best person to go with because I give it a resounding okay.
Oh, interesting.
I enjoyed myself while I watched it. My overarching criticism or comment is what is the point of this movie?
Fair enough.
This movie is pointless in my opinion. Not that I didn't have fun. I had a great time. He made a very well-crafted, pointless film. But what is, like to me, this movie is for an audience of one man. His name is Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
It is just like this is the most masturbatory of his films, I feel like.
Not more than The Hateful Eight.
I don't think so.
No, Hateful Eight at the very least was trying to tell like this twisty story. This was kind of like just... You're like, I'm going to pack as many references into the first hour of, the first hour doesn't need to exist in this movie. Basically, before they get to the camp, before they get to the Manson camp, god damn, that was just a lot. I mean, I had fun, like I said, but yeah, it was just kind of like needlessly packed with references. Whereas in his other movies, it felt like there was just kind of cool window dressing. Like you're into the story that seems really like deliberate. And every scene seems like it needs to be there, and then but then there's also these cool like things that they're throwing out. It seemed like it was like a huge wink, wink, nod, nod. Like, oh yeah, we're throwing out this movie, and that's like part of the enjoyment of this movie. I felt like at the beginning. Then you get to the great ending, and I mean that part is amazing, But once again, yeah, like That was my main thing.
Okay. Dan, what'd
What's
you
the
think?
point?
I loved it. It is super masturbatory. Like it is very pretentious, but I think I liked that about it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. He made a movie for a specific audience, more than just one man. I think it's like people that like movies, and it was maybe a generation of films I'm not super aware of. I was born well after the late '60s, but he crafted a world I liked just being in. Like you said, the first hour was pointless. I love just hanging out with those guys when they're riding around in a car, down the Sunset Strip or down Santa Monica, looking at billboards or playing whatever 60s music was going on. I was down to hang with them, honestly.
It's a hangout movie.
And Leo and Brad were, I thought, fucking spectacular. I'd watch them be buddies in any movie.
Yeah.
I could have watched them for the... What is a 4-hour and 20-minute assembly cut when they first did it. I would sit and watch that, honestly, because I enjoyed them both so much.
All right.
And the ending was badass and
yes.
and strange. I think it'll be fun to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had no problem sitting through Quentin masturbating, I guess.
Me neither, honestly. Like I said, it's just
he's a master filmmaker, right? So it's just cool to go along on a ride with him.
Even mediocre Tarantino is better than almost everything else that's coming out today. So I would, just compared to him.
Sure.
Well, that's tough though. He's made too many good movies, so anything he makes, he's comparing to like really, really good shit.
It's hard.
Tommy, what'd you think?
I think that I'm sort of with you guys. I would put it sort of in a lower tier Tarantino sort of film, but I still think it's really good. There are just so many great scenes in this movie. So yes, it's slow, I found, but the scene where Cliff goes to the Manson family ranch, that's just a great sequence. Leo freaking out in his trailer was just wonderful. I love the Bruce Lee fight scene. I thought that was great. And I love the ending. I love the last 30 minutes of this movie. It's so good.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you like Howard Hawks said, if you have like 3 great scenes, you have a great movie. So I mean, this has
That's
4 or
more than
5. This has like 4 or 5 great scenes. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I agree with everything that everyone said. There's really only one Tarantino movie that I've left the theater, and the second the movie ended, I was ecstatic. This is a masterpiece. I love this movie, and that's Django. And every
wow, that's
other
a hot take.
every other movie that he's made, pretty much, or at least every movie that he's made that I've seen in a theater. So that's basically everything after Jackie Brown, I guess. What did he make after Jackie Brown?
Kill Bill.
Kill Bill. Yeah, so everything after Jackie Brown are the only things I saw in theaters. Actually, I liked Kill Bill, both of them, when I walked out of the theater. But most of his movies, I walk out and I'm like, man, I'm going to have to chew on this for probably years. And that's how I felt walking out of this movie. But I loved all those scenes. I loved the bromance. The tension at the Spawn Ranch was unbelievably awesome. The scene with DiCaprio telling his reflection that he's going to kill himself if he doesn't nail his performance is so
He's gonna blow
good.
your brains out tonight.
That's so good. The ending with the home invasion and the flamethrower, DiCaprio belligerently yelling at the hippies with a frozen margarita
Oh my
in hand. Was so good.
When he came busting out of that shack with the flamethrower, I was just almost screaming.
You want to jump out of your seat
Oh,
right
so
there.
good.
I will say that I was expecting it to be funnier. I was expecting there'd be more of those DiCaprio moments.
No, sorry, I thought it was super funny for a Tarantino
laughed.
movie.
Yeah.
Like lots of direct jokes.
There's
Like
some more-
jokier.
There's a more like bittersweet sort of melancholy feel to it, though. Like you're watching this hangout movie, but like the looming threat of the Manson family is always around the edges of the movie, and so you're just waiting for everything to go shit. And that like really sort of adds sort of like a tinge of despair to everything.
We should probably talk about that at some point, but I called that after I saw the trailer the first time.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's no way they're going to dramatize the fucking Sharon Tate murders. It's like,
Well, yeah, I mean, after
He's not gonna
Inglourious
go
and
there.
Django, there's going to be some revisionist history going on.
right.
But you're hoping for it. You're just like spending the whole movie like, please
I was
don't
surprised
let
that
this happen.
Charles he wasn't there.
He's in it for 3 fucking seconds. But yeah, all I'm saying is that it kind of robbed the like, you think it's going to happen, but I kind of knew it wasn't going to happen.
Sure.
So like every time it like they're like horror movie style it would come to the Manson family, and it's just like I didn't buy it. But it was still fun. Whatever.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's go into a recap. So, 50s TV star Rick Dalton is in a state of despair when a producer informs him that his career is coming to an end. His only choice is to continue taking villain roles in westerns until he's forgotten, or fly to Rome and star in spaghetti westerns in a final hurrah. Together with longtime stuntman / personal assistant Cliff Booth, Rick vows to give his turn as Western villain Caleb everything he's got to prove himself that he's an actor of substance. Meanwhile, Charles Manson begins to creep on Rick's next-door neighbor Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate. Struggling to find work, Cliff picks up a hitchhiker and takes her to the Spawn movie ranch where the Manson family has taken residence. Cliff checks in on the owner of the property, and after a minor scuffle, he heads back to Hollywood. Despite an initial hiccup, Rick gives a masterful performance as Caleb, but that doesn't stop the producer's prophecy from coming true. A couple months later, Rick is heading to Rome to star in a handful of spaghetti westerns. After coming back from Rome with a new wife, Rick says he's gonna downsize, part ways with Cliff, and leave the acting world behind. Their final night of partying together is cut short when 3 of Manson's followers intercept a drunken Rick on their way to terrorize the Polanski residence. They opt instead to kill Rick, Cliff, and Rick's new wife, but with the help of Cliff's dog, the Manson followers are brutalized, lit on fire, and ultimately killed. After the incident, Rick is invited into the Polanski house where they reveal that they're fans of his. End of movie.
Aww.
Yep.
End of fairy tale.
End of fairy tale. All right, guys.
Sorry.
I don't know what that was for, but before we move on, want to give a shout out to
delayed.
our sponsors over at This Week in Movies. So if you want to stay up to date on movies coming out this weekend, if you ever wonder about which movies to see, which ones to skip, we're much more about movie analysis, but if you're much more about the up to the second stuff, check out the This Week in Movies podcast, or TWIM for short. It's fresh reviews, analysis, and insights for the latest movies in wide release. They won't spoil any of these movies without first giving you a warning, unlike our podcast where we constantly spoil everything. It's a weekly podcast, so subscribe now on your podcast platform of choice. And now back to the show. All right, guys, let's dive right in. And so since this is the Show Me the Meaning podcast, and we've already agreed that this is basically another Pulp Tarantino romp where he's basically masturbating and, masturbatory
Pulp
as an
Fiction
adjective.
didn't seem masturbatory.
No, I agree, but let's not immediately dismiss the film.
I'm not.
Let's first talk about the obvious meta cinema going on here. So as Tarantino often does, he's constantly drawing attention to the medium. So not only in the subject matter of the movie, but in some of the aesthetic choices as well. So you've noticed sometimes during the movie, some of the dialogue is deliberately dubbed over poorly. There are blank frames between the real changes. The scratches on the film are exaggerated. There's also a thing in this movie where they linger a lot on people watching films or TV. So there's the whole thing with Sharon Tate going to the theater to see her own movie. What'd you guys think of that scene? Do you like that scene?
I did.
I do. I love that scene. I loved everything with like Sharon and like watching her on her like normal day, her driving, her picking up a book with Clu Gallagher, her going to the movies. It just sort of normalized her to an extent, and it's sort of an interesting sort of dichotomy because Rick sort of idolizes that lifestyle, and yet we're watching Sharon just do the most mundane things imaginable.
And it's cool to like see an actress going to see themselves on the big screen for the first time. That just
should be humble, I guess.
Yeah.
There's such a sense of wonder to it because a lot of times you hear stories about like people going to their premieres and then immediately ducking out because they don't want to actually watch themselves or watch the film. But here there's like such a joy. She has such a joy in watching herself on screen, and I think that.
Yeah, and how she
lovely.
nailed her kung fu thing.
Oh, she's doing her moves, watching them again.
Yeah. So I'm curious, that was the scene that popped out to me as one of the ones that seemed the most superfluous. What were the scene? And so you liked that scene though, Ryan?
Yeah. Even the scenes I thought were superfluous, I liked.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, the superfluous stuff was sort of the Leo in the Western stuff.
Yes,
and
all of
him
that.
like talking with the girl for like the little girl for like 15 minutes. Where like I mean, the point of that scene is that he feels like he's a washed out and a has been. But we've already spent like 45 minutes with him coming to terms with being a washout and a has been. So I'm not sure you need another 15 minutes with some girl.
The scene with him and him and Al Pacino was a little out of place in the
it's
movie.
a little long.
It was edited strangely
Yeah.
and I think performed strangely
Yes.
also.
We were talking
one at
about
the
that.
beginning.
Yeah.
Just when they're at the diner, there are cuts where the continuity is way off, which I don't know, it kind of threw me.
Yeah, and they're like cutting into stuff. It'll start on a 2-shot, and then it'll like just cut into Leonardo DiCaprio, which is bizarre. I don't know.
Yeah. So there's Cliff watches a TV show when he's home with his dog. Cliff and Rick watch FBI together, and they're commenting on his performance as well as the other actors. One of my favorite parts of the movie, although such a subtle nothing, is when they're watching it and Rick is just like, that guy's a fucking prick. And then, as you guys mentioned, we watch entire scenes play out that Rick has performed in, not only in that Western, but also with the flamethrower scene. What did you guys think of the thing where they cut back? I hate to use this term, but it seemed almost like Family Guy to me at some points.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Like when he got the cigarette,
That also when
or
it's like
between the film and the
when the girl
Pacino meeting.
somebody asks him, maybe it's another actor, it's like, is it true that you really were once considered for The Great Escape? And then it cuts to him in The Great Escape. I felt like I was kind of watching Family Guy a little bit.
I did. Well, the narration was inconsistent. Like it was kind of like it would pop in and do something and then go away. Or like at some point he called himself a liar or said that's not true. I'm trying to remember the specifics.
Yeah, it's really
of-
only in like the beginning and then in the beginning of the last third, really, the Kurt Russell narration. I thought it was weird too. Like it's not consistently over the course of the film.
Yeah.
kinda-
It kind of comes in when it needs to jump.
Yeah, it comes in when he Quentin's like, hey, I can do whatever I want. So
I think that's the point.
Yeah.
The boat scene with him and his wife,
I love
like
that.
that seemed like a Family Guy thing and was great. But also, I definitely expected them to talk more about that later. They left that very
Cut
open
to her
ended.
getting speared like later on
Or
in the film.
and it maybe being an accident later or something. I don't know, but that's very much like he probably killed his wife. It seems like, right? I mean, like that's what we're supposed to believe.
I think you're supposed to question it, but it definitely would lead you to think he did something because he's an anti-hero. He's not supposed to be the golden guy.
Well,
He's
are we supposed to
be
root for
dirty.
someone who murdered their wife?
That's what makes it complicated, right?
Okay.
So there's also like sometimes the camera is invisible and other times we see through the lens that is being used to create a show or a movie. So there's DiCaprio's performance as Caleb in the Western film. Once he flubs his line, the camera goes back to 1, and then we recognize that we're essentially watching through the lens of the production camera. And then there's when Cliff and Rick are being interviewed on the set of Rick's TV show. When there's also other entertainment is pretty omnipresent in it. So when Cliff is driving and during the credits and throughout the film in general, we're always lingering on advertisements from the era, just kind of letting them play out. So my question to you guys is, so it's clear that the movie is drawing attention to the medium, but is it saying anything about it?
Well, I think it's idealizing it. That this was the heyday of Hollywood. This was the golden
was it?
age. But I think for Tarantino, it is.
But then why wouldn't he show Polanski and Penn and all these people that he grew up idolizing? But they're kind of the background characters.
They're in the movie, though. Polanski and Steve McQueen and Bruce Lee and like all those people.
Dude, that Steve McQueen scene, though, was pretty amazing, right?
With the guy from Billions.
Damien, was it Lewis?
Yeah,
I thought he looked perfect. He did that, perfect Tarantino telling a Hollywood story, insider story. I don't know.
Well, the what I got out of all the media in it is like the story is about a very specific time in Hollywood, when in between the old Hollywood and new Hollywood. So because he's supposed to be kind of in like a Sam Peckinpah new age Western there, when they're making him like a hippie and stuff, and he's kind of like, I don't know if I like this, because he's part of the old Hollywood. So I think it was twofold. Quentin Tarantino just wants to make this, like, saturate you in the media of the day, of the Summer of Love, 1969 or whatever, and then also show you the two different kinds of, the old stuff that Leonardo DiCaprio used to be in, and then, you see him making the new stuff and kind of the conflict of an artist at the end of his time, basically.
Well, that was like the Summer of Love, the end of the Summer of Love, when these murders happened and when that guy was killed at Altamont. Like, that was the end of the hippie movement, right? Or what
Pretty
people
much.
would say was the end of the good, happy times, and when the world got dark in the 70s. So maybe that's what he's trying to do a little bit with flashing all this, like, when the golden age,
It's
the
a
happy
fairy
times.
tale once upon a time.
And that is transitioning a little bit, and then I don't know what he's really trying to say with the end of the film necessarily, that maybe those times should have gone on.
Well, the end of the film, by the way, we should... I'm sorry.
No, it's just it does seem to me like he was just lingering in. He was just like pointing out all these things that he thought was cool, and I don't know if he was really saying anything with it, other than just immersing you in what his favorite time was.
So, some trivia: Ryan is an expert on all things Charles Manson.
I did a term paper on it in high school.
In high school, yeah. So, how did the whole Manson thing go for you?
I thought it was completely under talked. It wasn't talked about at all. Like I guess it doesn't matter in the story they were telling. Because it was about one night and two friends' lives that just happened to coincide with the Manson murders. But I wish that it was kind of a missed opportunity in the sense that they could have gone into the whole race war and the helter-skelter stuff, and basically what Manson was trying to do. Like we said before, he's not in the movie, basically. They kind of just, you have to, that's my other criticism of the movie. You really have to know the history of the Manson murders, or at least a general history of it, to
I know very little. I
to
just
have it
know
be
that
effective, the forebodingness of it.
Yeah.
And if you know exactly what happened, then there's a few details they throw in there, like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, he really did say, the text said, I'm the devil, I'm here to do the devil's work. That's like what he said that night. But yeah, I wish that he had gone more into what the fuck they were doing.
So more to what
they kind of turned into just regular horror movie villains.
Well, I mean, they're deconstructed, really. So, like, I think the Manson family's put on some sort of pedestal as a horrific ordeal, and here they're just a bunch of idiot kids that easily get dispatched by Cliff in horrific fashion. Like, they're total morons, and I think that is sort of dispelling this sort of allure of the Manson family that has sort of dominated media culture.
I don't like, as opposed to Inglourious Bastards, where it was so cathartic to see Hitler get shot up, because everyone knows exactly what he did and his ideology and what he represented. You know where they're coming from. Here, it's like, if you know about the Manson families and what they did, when they get their head pummeled in, it's like, awesome, this is great, they deserved it. But if in the movie you don't know exactly why they're evil, you just know that they were going to kill these people. You don't really know what they're all about, though, kind of.
I think like the Manson culture, though, or the Manson family is sort of synonymous with evil. So I mean, I think that's the Hitler thing too. Hitler is synonymous with evil. So I mean, I think that's all you really.
He was evil.
Yeah, I know it is evil. Yeah. So there is no but like I think that's all you need, though, really.
No, but we know why he's evil, because you can point to the crimes here.
Sure.
It's just, I guess, they killed him, so why it doesn't matter why they thought they were killing him. But to me, it's interesting the fact that they had been brainwashed by the psychopath to to start a race war, because they were going to blame it on black people in the inner cities, to turn on the cops, and it was going to because the Beatles told them to in the White Album. I mean, that's crazy.
At the end of the day, I think that the Mansons are just a tool to create conflict, because at the end of the day, this movie is about media. It's about movies, and they don't really have a lot to do with that. And that's why I think, so you just asked the question, if you didn't know about the Manson murders and you didn't know about them killing Sharon Tate, how would you consume this? And my take on this is that we got to kind of focus on what the...
But do people not know who the Manson family is, or that they killed Sharon Tate? Like,
I bet you there are people who don't know who Sharon Tate is or was.
Sure.
There are people who don't know who Roman Polanski is.
Sure, but I think everyone knows what the Manson family is, which I guess is what I have issue with. Sort of Ryan's point is like, why glorify the Manson family anymore? Why do we need to go into what they were about?
This movie's about
let's
them.
I mean, but it's about dismissing them.
Movie.
It's about dismissing them and sort of demystifying them, I think. So that's why I would argue that the movie doesn't sort of delve into sort of the Manson family cult.
How long did you want this movie to be?
That's right.
I wanted that face pulling scene to be twice as long. I'm just saying,
we didn't have to wait very long for hyperviolence.
The catharsis is better if you know exactly who these people are, I feel like.
I would agree. However, I think that there is something interesting in what one of the women who was part of the Manson trio said before they go to kill Rick Dalton. And she says something along the lines of, all entertainment is about murdering people, and that's wrong. We should go show them the logical end to their sentiments, or something like that. And to me, this is really the only meaning I can derive from this movie, which may or may not be forced. Viewers, you write in, tell me what you think. But the whole thing with television being on just in everyone's house, like even... entertainment affects everybody. Even Tex, one of the Manson followers, had Rick on a lunchbox as a kid. And then probably the most poignant moment to the conclusion of the film is when the guy at the Polanski residence indicates that he remembers the flamethrower part from one of Rick's movies. And I think that Tarantino is saying to this girl, no, fuck that. Violent entertainment doesn't make people violent. It brings people together. It's our shared culture. It's the saddest thing about perhaps what this movie depicts. It depicts a time where culture wasn't so atomized like it is today. Hollywood was a more centralized system that crafted culture, and that culture gave a sense of identity, like a shared sense of identity in knowing that everyone, whether you're at the Spahn Ranch worshiping Charles Manson, or you're a Hollywood celebrity living in the hills, or you're broke as a joke living in a trailer like Cliff, you're spending your evening in front of the television watching FBI. and that's something we can all share as Americans. And I think that that's kind of one of the beautiful pieces of nostalgia that Tarantino is reflecting on.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, and I also like the number one criticism against Tarantino is his glorification of violence, and so it's interesting that the Manson family is the one sort of espousing that sort of rhetoric.
Right. Yeah. Right. Those are his critics.
F you critics.
Yeah. Fuck you critics. I don't make people violent. I give people entertainment, and nothing binds people together, binds a culture together like entertainment. That's kind of the most I was able to get out of this movie.
I buy that entirely, man. It's like that day and time where everyone sat down at 7:30 to watch the same show.
Yeah.
Everyone in the country would do that. And
yeah.
I guess we don't have that anymore.
You had Ed Sullivan. Yeah, now that Game of Thrones is over.
Yeah, that's it.
See, I would say that the one bit of meaning I got from the movie was in the very last 5 minutes when he goes, because the whole movie I'm kind of like I was saying was like, what's the point? But I was having fun. But then at the end when he's walking up, and I could tell that he was about to go schmooze with Sharon Tate and the celebrities all night. I'm like, that is hilarious. I thought about you actually, Jared, like because it seemed like such a cynical move to use this gruesome murder as a setup to basically just get kind of a struggling actor to get maybe a job later.
You know, a second career
like
going.
It's like that's what this was used for. Is like, oh wow, the fairy tale ending is maybe I'll get a small role in a Roman Polanski movie because I stopped these horrific murders of these people gutting a pregnant woman. Like,
well, he didn't really stop him. Cliff did.
He had this flamethrower.
Cliff's dog.
Yeah, Ruby had a big hand in this.
Brandy.
I'm sorry.
I was going to ask you what you thought of that, because I know we're both dog lovers.
Yeah.
But, you know, the dog is extremely violent, so you're kind of perpetuating the myth that pit bulls are these evil dogs.
Well, it was
I have a
obedient.
pit bull, too.
Oh, I love pit bulls. No, they're super sweet. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that even if you have a sweet, nonviolent pit bull, you'd want your pit bull to get rowdy if someone came in your house and was holding you at gunpoint, right?
If some knife guy showed up.
If you trained it to, like Brad Pitt apparently had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That part was fucking badass. Yeah, I mean, that scene is fucking amazing. Well, okay, more to what you were saying. I was actually going to ask you, since I don't know a ton about these murders, can we say that if those murders didn't happen and Sharon Tate and those 8 other people didn't die that night, then Hollywood would or would not have blank? I don't, like, it seems to be such an event that is so culturally significant that, you know, in a sense we could say, all right, well, if in Inglourious Bastards Hitler was killed in a movie theater in whatever year that was, 1943 in the movie, then it would have, you know, significantly changed the whole trajectory of the war. Millions of people wouldn't have died, whatever.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of fantasy that we can infer from the fact that that event doesn't happen in Hollywood?
Well, I mean, like Dan was alluding to, like the whole hippie movement kind of died that night, because, you know, the whole criticism was that, oh, these just drug smoking hippies or whatever, what, you know, are up to no good. And then this guy was just like a boogeyman to put on all the newspapers, saying like, that is what we're talking about. Everyone's trying to become this guy. You know, everyone's going to, you know, all of our youth are going to start murdering people.
Yeah. I was going to say that this starts the boon of like serial killers, I think, in the U.S. The glorification of Charles Manson really begets, you know, more and more horrific sort of serial killers and crimes trying to gain infamy via that.
Oh, shit. So we wouldn't have true crime.
I don't think we'd have true crime.
No,
I don't think it was 8 people that night either. It was like over 2 nights.
Yeah,
So.
there were several
excuse me.
other murders, right? And I think there was one before the Polanski Sharon Tate.
At Spawn Ranch, though, I think they like killed someone there. As
This is
I
our
recall.
expert.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But I do know it was
But, yeah.
there was the La Bianca
Well-
murders, which were the following night after the Sharon Tate murders, I believe.
That's right,
The
because they were going to
reason-
try and cast, like, make it look like it was someone else,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and not the
And then
Manson folk.
I believe the reason they did the Tate killings was to get another one of their members out of jail, as I
Yeah.
recall. I'm not particular on the specifics.
Yeah,
From
that
my
part.
history book.
Anyway, I think the summer of love wouldn't have ended, and we'd all be living in communes and boning.
Yeah,
all
it'd
the
be
time.
a utopia, dude. If
Okay.
Charles Manson
But
just
seriously, what's that
No,
guy's
just
problem?
kidding.
Like he had everything going, right?
who?
Manson.
Oh.
He had like all these like beautiful women doing what he wanted all the time. Even some
He
dudes
was
doing-
fucking whacked out of his mind, man, on the fucking acid, bruh. You know, and he just had this fucking. And then the Beatles were talking to him through the White Album. You know, he had a whole.
He was
he had a whole
halfway to the
army.
right
He just
thing.
had to ruin a good thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, other part that I want to draw our attention to is during the Spawn movie ranch scene, there's a really clever part where they're kind of playing with Western cinematography conventions. So when Cliff is at the ranch approaching George's cabin, the camera emulates old Western cinematography with Cliff as the unwelcomed outsider or bandit being intimidated by the denizens of the town. So we see a tracking shot of the Manson family coming out on the porch to Mad Dog Cliff. And then once Cliff exits George's cabin, the camera cranes down past Pussycat's body like a sheriff waiting for an outlaw to exit the saloon ready to draw. I thought it was very clever. I thought it was actually like a point where I chuckled a bit, but do you guys think there's anything more to it?
Well, I mean, Cliff starring in his own kind of Western that,
Yeah.
well, you know, it's mirroring Leonardo DiCaprio's whole thing he's got going. That's the only thing I can think.
Yeah, I think that's it basically. Like Leo's in his own fake Western. Meanwhile, Cliff, you know, his stunt double,
Is- yeah, the
the
fake-
real deal.
fake Cliff is actually in the real thing.
Western.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. There it is, Tommy. That was what I was looking
Also,
for.
fun trivia fact: my roommate Sean is one of the Manson gang.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's
Oh,
got
cool.
long hair. I only noticed him one time. It was in the wide shot when Cliff is beating the shit out of that dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's back there.
Nice.
Another fun
What up,
fact.
Sean?
I'm pretty sure Dern was supposed to be Burt Reynolds.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which I think would have
died.
landed a little harder for me. I don't know.
Well, the movie's like filled with character actors of, you know, shows past and films past. There's Clu Gallagher, Luke Perry's in it,
Yeah.
Dakota Fanning. Like, it's such
Yeah.
an eclectic cast of like different people.
Tim
Yeah.
Roth cut.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I did see that. Yeah, Tim Roth, parentheses, cut.
Yeah.
James Marsden cut.
Yeah.
I was telling him there's also a credit in the IMDb listing for Abraham Lincoln. So my theory is that was it Marsden, Tim Roth, and Abraham Lincoln were in one of those spaghetti westerns they were filming, maybe. And that's that ending part. I know we're jumping ahead here, but that ending part where all of a sudden it was like 6 months later, there's a bunch of narration, some stills felt really strange to me. I think that's maybe where he cut this chunk of the movie that's missing. I don't know. I think
it could be also another one of those flashback sequences. If it's Leonardo DiCaprio's character inhabiting another film, maybe it's one where Lincoln is. I mean, what is a famous old movie with Abraham Lincoln in it?
Young Mr. Lincoln, John Ford.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I don't know.
So, do you guys think, more to what we were talking about earlier when I asked Tommy, it's like, okay, well, why focus on this transition period, this time where these older stars were dying and the people that I'm going to assume Tarantino grew up idolizing, like Polanski, Coppola, Penn, etc. Why focus on that time? And my question is, do you think that we're supposed to consume the aesthetic of the film through the lens of Rick's arc, in that just as Rick's career is yielding to its inevitable demise, so too are we witnessing today in 2019 the studio system's demise?
Oh, I was going to say, I thought you were going with Tarantino.
That's what I was thinking you were going with.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like,
Well, they go hand in hand, right?
I feel like Tarantino, I don't know, I'm just saying my perspective of what Tarantino feels is that he's sort of waning away. I mean, he's already said he's only going to make 10 movies. This is his 9th movie. And I mean, if you look at the discourse surrounding this movie, it's a little rough. So I wonder if, like, is there a place for Tarantino now? And
what is the disc? People don't. I haven't read any reviews usually before
There's
I
like
do
a
these
lot
podcasts.
of. I mean, it's the same stuff that's always sort of haunted Tarantino.
It's not even that
It's the
violent.
same cases. It's the same thing. Like, oh, is he glorifying violence? Oh, is it violence against women? It's the same sort of stuff he's been dealing with his entire career. But it is amplified now, I think, with the advent of sort of social media.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
So-
People are trying to give him shit for not having enough
and then
Sharon Tate
there's
in the
another-
movie.
Well, there's
the way he
probably
treated
another
her.
2 hours of it somewhere.
Transitions, I know Tarantino's a big film guy, and we are leaving film entirely behind, I think. So a lot of his message seems to be about the wonderful gloriousness of yesterday and how it was so much better. We need to hang on to it and not let it go.
Well, look at the movies out right now. It's like Aladdin, it's Lion King. It's all remakes and sequels, and then the one original movie is his movie. And so
Yeah.
he's definitely is the outlier in this system. I mean, it's a miracle he's still able to make these kinds of movies.
Yeah.
And it was his biggest one.
Yeah,
Right?
It's a good thing. I mean, if he wants to make 20 more movies, please Tarantino.
Yeah.
Like I really do think we need people like him making these
I
sort of
agree.
big original movies. Even if not everyone likes them, just look at the Cineplex today. These are the type of movies that are needed to sort of counteract and balance.
Yeah, but I don't. Okay, so there's two ways to read the ending, and I would say that Tarantino is almost given up. He's not saying that if there were 10 more me's, then cinema would be revitalized. To me, this movie is just like it was great while it was, man.
I totally agree. I totally agree. He has given up. I totally agree. It's this is the fantasy, and it's not. It can never be real.
But is the fantasy that because once again Rick, he kills the Mansons and then he gets invited by the quote cool kids.
Mm-hmm.
So to Ryan's point earlier, it is possibly that Rick Dalton will get to make some badass Roman Polanski movies, and that the new will coexist, or I'm sorry, the old guard will coexist with the new guard. Are we meant to take it as more of an optimistic thing? If we are going this meta angle about the state of the studio system or the state of cinema, are we supposed to take that as a little bit more optimistic?
I will say that the last shot, though, is when the title is revealed, the Once Upon a Time. So it sort of suggests that everything we're seeing is a fairy tale. This couldn't have ever happened.
Right.
This is just what I wish could have happened. So I don't really see it as, Rick lives his life, in doing Polanski movies. I see it as just a fantasy that I wish could have been true. I wish Rick lived next door to Sharon Tate.
I do think that very end does make it kind of an optimistic ending, a happier, happily ever after or whatever, because so much of the movie was, Rick trying to come to terms with the fact that he's over the hill or he's past his prime. It's, I guess, the same thing with Brad Pitt's character. The coming to accept that you are no longer the hot shit or in the prime of your life, and what do you do now? Maybe that is exactly what Tarantino's thinking in his head, and maybe Star Trek will be great.
I bet you it fucking will be. I mean, I think
I'll take $10. He will never make a Star Trek movie.
I thought it was a Star Trek. Oh no, it's a Star Trek movie. Would you think because he won't do it?
He won't do it. He won't do it. Every couple of years, it's like, oh, I'm going to do a Friday the 13th movie. Yeah, fucking right.
Well, he
Tarantino.
hired a whole writing
I know, yeah.
team to work on it.
To do what?
We'll see.
He hired
We'll
a
see.
writing team to hash the script
Why
out
doesn't
for
he
him.
write it? He's
got
he's
too
an
much
Academy
shit.
Award-winning writer.
Yeah, I think it takes him too long. I
Yeah.
don't know.
All right. So, anything else you guys want to bring up? That's all I got. I've got 2 emails actually about this movie that we can go into.
Well, I know Ryan wants to talk about the feet.
Oh, I love them feet, baby.
Is he trolling
man.
people now with
I think
that?
so.
No, I don't think so. I think he just
Really?
loves the feet. It's
Well, it's
feet
probably
and driving
both.
shots. It's feet and driving from the
From
back.
behind?
From behind.
I love that
Jesus
shot, though.
Christ. Jesus Christ, Tarantino. He just doesn't give a shit now. He's
I
just
mean,
like,
it's
yeah.
both pathological and he's self-aware,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, after Kill Bill, how could, I mean, everyone called him out on
Well,
it.
yeah, and people give him so much shit about it. I figure at this point, if he's sticking it that much in your face, he's got to be like, fuck you, I'm doing you what I want. Make fun of me if you want.
Is this
I think
stipulated-
Tarantino, I wish he was making more films simply so he could continue to say, as the social media outrage only intensifies, he can intensify his fuck you, I'm doing what I want.
They're dirty now.
Yeah.
I like the dirt. I've never seen, a scene where the dirty feet were in the foreground so much, but I've especially never seen 2 extended ones in one film. That's where I think people are like, wait a minute, what the fuck's going on here? What are you trying to tell me?
Yeah.
Get those out of my face.
You were saying you didn't hear anything about people trying to give him shit for not having enough Margot Robbie in it. I guess
I just haven't read
treating-
anything yet, yeah.
And you shouldn't, probably. But I guess just not treating Sharon Tate like a full character. He's kind of following her around, maybe fetishizing her a little bit. But something that stood out in this movie to me was almost the female gaze of just following Brad Pitt around.
Taking that shirt off.
Shirtless,
Hell yeah.
just staring right at the camera. Like,
is-
it's so much of it just says, look at him and how pretty he is. Don't you want to be that cool? I don't know. I think it's fascinating.
baffling how good looking he still is.
How old is the dude?
55.
Holy
55,
shit.
I think.
Yeah. That's a good looking man.
Yeah, someone we work with was even like, I never used to really be like one of those people that thought Brad Pitt was hot, but Brad Pitt's hot in this movie.
And why didn't he just make another Western? I feel like half of this movie's runtime was a Western.
Well, he's already
Maybe
made
not.
his last 2 movies were Western.
I know.
So it's like
He's a little hung up.
Even when he does like a Hollywood film, it's still half of it is a Western.
Western somehow.
he can't help himself.
Kill Bill was a little bit too.
I mean, he's always said that like he wants to do westerns. Like that's his thing. He wants.
I
to
wish
be a
he'd made a
Western
better
director.
one than Hateful Eight. Oh, God
Ooh.
damn it.
Has anyone seen the full Netflix 4-part series?
Is it different?
It intrigues me. I think there's
Well,
more.
yeah, because it's 4 hours long instead of
Okay.
the. Well, what is it? Actually, 3.5.
I think it's like,
theatrical
yeah.
one. So it's extra 30 minutes,
Which
whatever.
is another interesting thing. Is that Quentin Tarantino giving up his fight for film? Because he's super anti-digital.
Yeah.
And he went to Netflix and was like, we'll make my movie into a weird little miniseries with
Yeah,
you guys.
Isn't the plan that after 10 movies he's going to start writing books?
That's what
I
I've
thought
read.
books and theater, but he just
not
says
gonna
stuff.
happen.
Yeah,
He does just
Net-
say shit.
just says
I actually read that this started out as a book. Once
No.
upon a time
Full
in
of
Hollywood.
shit.
I think he says, yeah, just to rile people up.
I
I'll
think
buy his books.
Netflix is going to wave a fancy check in front of his face and he'll just make something.
But does he want his movie going to direct to Netflix?
Oh, I'm
or
just saying he'll
really,
make
like-
something for
Yeah.
Netflix, even after if it's his 10th movie and he's like, I'm done making movies, I'm done doing that or TV. I think it's probably not going to happen. All right, anyway, so we are going to go into the mailbag. Hit us up at movies@wisecrack.co. Before we get to the voicemails, let's go ahead and go with these movie-relevant emails. So we got one from a guy who has emailed us before with the amazing name of Commissioner Gordon. He says, hey guys, just saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and had some thoughts on the ending that I wanted to share. I'm a current PhD student in clinical psychology and I'm being trained in a therapy that focuses on treating trauma-related nightmares in PTSD. A portion of this therapy involves having the individual write out the content of their worst nightmare, and then it has them rewrite the narrative of the nightmare to change the core themes. This can be incredibly therapeutic because it takes the power away from the nightmare and gives it back to the individual. The ending of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood reminded me of this therapeutic approach. By changing the ending of the real-life story, Tarantino takes the power away from the Manson family and gives it back to Sharon Tate and her friends. While we all know the truth of what really happened, I feel like this honors their memory in a way that no other ending could have. Thoughts on this perspective?
Yeah, I totally agree with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it really give them power, though? It's just a story.
I think it takes away power from the Manson family. I don't necessarily know if it gives power to Sharon Tate and Jay Serbling or the rest of the.
I would argue.
I would
it's
say
therapeutic.
I agree. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was
It's
gonna
not
say.
necessarily. I don't know. What are
Or,
you gonna
or
say?
therapeutic for Tarantino. Maybe the Tate or these murders are something that's haunted him, and it's a way of him processing.
It's clearly affected him. He may. I mean.
Yeah.
Cool concept for sure.
All right, this next email is from Bradley. He says, all I have to say about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is it's nice to see an anti-Marvel/anti-Disney movie in the middle of the Marvel-Disney dynasty. It's just Disney, man. They're all one thing. Not only does it have all the sex, violence, and adult language you'll only find on Marvel After Dark, but it lacks a 3-act structure or hero's journey in defiance of your friends at Lessons from the Screenplay and Just Right. I don't think they're 3-act evangelists. Anyway, most of the threads presented in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood are left hanging by the end. No Manson murders and no Polanski messing things up in this movie, to name the big ones. The only thread of a build-up is Tex meeting Cliff again, but that just turned out to be a coincidence. We don't get many people just doing things movies since it's so hard to pull off. Probably every theater this weekend had a "that's it" reaction at the end, which is like some of the older Hollywood flicks where a movie just fires up the credits. All I know is I already forgot most of the Lion King remake and 80% of the newest Spider-Man film, but I will not be forgetting any of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Peace from Bradley.
Nice.
Well, I don't know, older Hollywood flicks.
Yeah, I would say that they had more happy.
It depends on
endings.
what
Like,
era he's talking about. If he's talking about some of what Polanski represented, then yeah, but certainly not what Dalton represented, Rick Dalton.
I mean, structurally, this is a little bit more avant-garde than even the typical Tarantino movie. I mean, nobody has any sort of clear wants. I mean, I guess Rick wants to be, a
revered
Hollywood
actor.
star, but that's sort of intangible. He doesn't in Pulp Fiction, people are after the briefcase, or people are, in Inglourious Basterds, they're after to kill Hitler. But in this one, they're sort of reacting to different things. What does Cliff want in this movie? Like, there isn't necessarily a clear objective.
He wants to
He's
feed
supposed to
his
hang.
dog
Yeah, he's supposed to-
and hang out and treat his best friend.
Be
good.
awesome.
Yeah, and be just a cool dude.
All right, we're going to go to the voicemails. If you have comments, concerns, questions, hit us up 213-534-8807 or 21-ELF-HUT-07.
Elf Hut.
Because the Elf Hut is where you want to
Is it
party.
07 or 7?
07.
Elf Hut 07. We figured that out.
21-ELF-HUT-07.
We put the people on it.
Let's
and they
play
figured
the
that out.
anonymous email. The
Anonymous
first one
email.
about Midsommar.
Anonymous email by Midsommar. About Midsommar.
We've all seen it.
I just wanted to call in about Midsommar. In the episode, you guys talked a lot about ritual and grief, but when I saw the movie, I thought a big theme was religion. There's a critique on religion. By the end of the film, I think Ari Aster wants you to really question whether or not there's much value in these rituals. And for me, the biggest indicator of this was Pele's brother and the second member of the cult that was selected for the sacrifice. Up until that point, they both seemed completely fine with it, as if they accepted their role in the cult. But then, when you see the placebo that they were given was completely ineffective, I think that just shows that kind of like their whole thing is bullshit, and their reaction to realizing that they were given a placebo, I think, is the most telling, because instead of peacefully accepting it, they both start freaking out and they try to move, but they can't because they're paralyzed. And yeah, that's kind of just my little take. And
Thank you very much, Anonymous.
Wait, what was the placebo? Do you
Yeah,
know?
that's what I was trying to figure
guess
out.
when
What
they
is
were-
the placebo?
He put that stuff in their mouths so they wouldn't hurt when they burned alive at the end. Is that what the part she's talking about?
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
I
Sure.
think-
I think
that's the only thing I can think of that
That's
clicks.
right.
But that was a
that's-
placebo?
I don't think it's a.
Because if that were the case, then wouldn't they be able to move?
Yeah, no, I think it's like they were given a thing that they wouldn't feel pain right at the end of the movie, but then he starts screaming anyway. So he
Oh.
still feels pain. So I guess it didn't work necessarily.
I did not catch that. Interesting. As far as the religion thing, I mean, yeah, when I talk about ritual, I'm very much kind of interchangeably talking about it with like any kind of mysticism or religion or kind of irrational act that you do as a community for the sake of doing it. But yeah, thank you for that message, Anonymous. Let's do the one from, we're going to do one more voicemail. Let's do the one from Logan.
From Logan about Blade Runner.
Oh, R.I.P. Rutger Hauer.
Oh yeah,
know.
seriously.
Yeah.
One of the best scenes ever, I think. In film.
Oh, yeah.
Or one of my favorites, at least.
I don't know how to go to the next one. How do I go to the next one?
Oh, weird.
Did you break it, Ryan?
More
So
than
we were in the
likely.
middle of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Logan calling about the Blade Runner Show Me the Meaning episode. In it, you guys discuss how the movie is written and how the movie is directed and all these wonderful things about the film. And I would have loved to have heard some more elements of philosophy in regards to the film. When I first saw it, I was within my first philosophy class, actually, and it was a Russian bootleg that the professor provided. But in it, he drew a lot of analogies to Descartes and how it's our own existence and the fact that we know we exist, much as the androids know they exist and we humans, it makes it so there's not so much of a difference. And the other kind of flashy call to it is Descartes' name is really, really similar to Descartes just in general. So just a couple of tidbits for you. I'd love to hear any more philosophical thoughts. Y'all take care.
Well, there's a part in the movie where Pris actually says the cogito, which is I think, therefore I am, and she says it to Sebastian before that. So, yes, there is a Descartes shout-out in the movie. I guess more on his mind-body distinction and how if, you have the mind, then you exist. And, yeah, thank you for calling us out on that.
Yeah,
is
guess
that
what, Logan?
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
All right, so we're going to do one more email. This is about Midsommar. This is from Carl from Sweden. He says, thanks to the two brave souls that took it upon themselves to talk about Midsommar, you requested input from Swedish listeners, so I feel compelled to write.
Yeah.
One distinct reference to Swedish culture is a poster in Danny's apartment, which is a John Bauer illustration of a fairy tale from 1912 about an innocent little princess going into the woods where she encounters a big bear, which is depicted in that illustration, among other things. Through her encounters, she is urged to take off her clothes one by one, which she does to become accepted in her natural state. She then returns home and states that her parents aren't allowed to be mad at her because she had so much fun. The bear doesn't exactly match the one in Danny's story, but her arc is very much the same as the princess's, where she needs to shed her civilized layers one by one until she is fully feral and thinking it is justified because she enjoys it. You said that she is fully realized by the end that the communal sharing of emotions is part of a healthier society. I don't think it's quite that simple. I would suggest that the mimicking of emotions I would suggest that the mimicking of emotional expression distances the community from actual emotions. They are turning any expression of emotions into a ritual, allowing them to ignore the actual pain of the people screaming in agony, and making the individual unable to express and, by extension, even identify with their own emotions. Florence Pugh is spot on throughout the movie, and that smile at the end is not happy or even a realized one, but a completely dead one. Perhaps that kind of brainwashing is healthy for a person dealing with trauma, but it's hardly a journey of self-actualization for Danny. This is a story about how people can be recruited into terrorism and cults without being terrible individuals. From Carl. What did you guys think of that final smile at the end?
I mean, it's definitely meant to make you uncomfortable with watching. I mean, she's literally her smile is watching her boyfriend be brutally murdered and, go up in flames. So I think that it's that duality between, this horrific event happening and her reaction to it, theoretically.
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
I like the costume that she was in. No.
All those flowers?
That was so fucking rad.
Yeah.
I don't know that...
Is everyone else still screaming when she's smiling? Because, there is something to, like, she's smiling and everyone else is still, like, doing the yelling of the guy who was screaming in there. So, it doesn't seem like she's joining the cult there, right? Like, she's still apart from them.
So I was actually, this is two separate things that Carl is referring to. So I had said that earlier in the movie, my argument was essentially that the movie has this kind of clever ambiguity of like, yes, what the cult does is awful, but at the same time, they offer her a better support group than she got in Christian and her other friends.
Sure.
And I said that like basically like when she sees Christian cheating on her, she starts screaming and then they scream back at her. And this is actually a better alternative to the support that Christian and the other friends were giving her by not remembering her birthday and not seemingly giving a shit that she just experienced the worst thing a person could possibly experience. And Carl's point is that perhaps that communal sharing of emotions is not actually as beneficial as I'm suggesting.
I thought she found her place at the end.
That's how I read it.
Yeah, that was the right place for her. And yeah, I don't know that she was brainwashed necessarily. I think she willingly.
I'm not saying she was brainwashed. I'm saying that she's literally rock bottom. Her friends aren't giving her shit, and there's this community that is literally optimized through crazy mystical ritual to allow people who, you know, to basically bring. It's like a optimized support group, basically.
And she's the May Queen.
Despite how fucked up it is.
The part of that I found fascinating was the myth of the little girl going into the woods and casting off her clothes until she was feral. That's a fascinating parallel, actually.
Yes, thank you for that.
And you'd have to know that painting very well, I guess.
I wonder how many Swedish people know this painting, or if Carl's just a G.
Yeah. And fun fact, I took Swedish as my foreign language in college.
How much do you remember? I do remember.
Ja. Jag har en bil. I have a car. Swedish Carl, please tell me if that was correct. Bra Fodelsdag. Happy birthday.
Oh, cool.
Hell yeah, dude. Fodelsdag, bra. Fodelsdag. I have just a couple live comments, if that's cool.
Go for it.
Just a couple. We got one that says, hey, Dan from Funhouse.
Hello.
That's pretty cool.
Stranger.
Seabass Neil says, I thought Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was just about the jaded state of cinema in today's age.
So we kind of talked about that,
yeah, kind of what we were talking about, how it's just a metaphor for today.
Shout out to that guy.
And then another, what I thought was funny was, you know, Jared, you had said earlier that was there a movie that Abraham Lincoln was in?
Oh,
and Louis the 13th very helpfully says, film didn't exist until 1896.
I meant
Lincoln was assassinated by a Democrat in 1865.
A lot of literal people. He's got a point.
I meant the Abraham. I mean, obviously, in the credits of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they weren't saying that they actually dug up Abraham Lincoln and he was in it. So obviously, I meant the character.
Awesome,
but yeah, all right, whatever his name, Louis the 13th. I'll give you that one. All right, you probably have to go, right?
Yeah, I gotta go.
Okay, all right, we're gonna call it. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Dan.
Dude,
Dan, tell us about Filmhouse.
Oh, Filmhouse. We do the same thing with a lot less smarts behind it.
Oh, please.
We sit down every Thursday and just shoot the shit about whatever movie we think people would be interested in hearing about.
Yeah, you guys are more masochistic than we are. You actually required your people to see The Lion King.
No, we did not.
I'm surprised. I was actually out that week. Thank God. But
I saw you uploaded one.
Yeah, Adam decided to do. You were actually on.
I was on that
right?
one. Yeah,
it was like, don't watch The Lion King. Here are other lion movies to go watch instead.
So none of you actually saw it.
People got mad about that too.
Maybe rightfully so.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
A lot of times people don't understand we tell jokes for a living. And I think it was supposed to be funny, and a lot of people are like, how dare you talk about a movie you've never seen? Which you got a point, but I think
it was more about
a joke.
It was alternative lion movies. That was the idea. I talked about Roar. That was mine, you know.
Oh, the documentary.
No, it's not a documentary.
Wait.
It's the one
where all those people got mauled by lions.
Like everyone on the fucking cast and crew got mauled by the lions that they were filming.
I am aware of the behind the scenes thing, which is why I thought it was a documentary.
Oh, right. Yeah. Young Melanie Griffith and Tippi Hedren.
Gotcha. All right, guys, we're signing off for today. Thanks for watching, guys. Next week, we're doing Zombieland because the new Zombieland trailer just came out, and I've still never seen that movie, so I'll be watching it for the first time for next week's podcast.
Enjoy.
Exciting.
Cool. All right, see you guys then. Thanks a lot.
Peace out.
Bye.
Oh, wait. Goodbye from Hollywood, California.
Well, I'm a mushroom cloud laying motherfucker. I'm Superfly TNT. I'm the Guns of the Navarone.
Hell yeah.